Attracting the right clients in 2021, or even beyond. You might watch this video later on. Now, we are in a new year. I am recording this video session at the beginning of January 2021. And at the moment, many businesses have different types of challenges. Some of you may have been, prior to, for example, even 2020, you may have been a business that was physical, that it didn't have any sort of online components. And now that you are moving slightly in a different direction, or because of the COVID lockdowns, you've had to change how you do things. There will be a lot of the rest of you who watch this who are already maybe healers, maybe coaches, who are moving again, up-leveling their business, up-leveling their programs. And that can come in all shapes and sizes. I work with a lot of people who have been healers for many years, who may be up-leveling into teaching programs, maybe up-leveling their branding, their marketing, doing their business in a more professional and, how could you say, in a way that it more starts to really target market who they're really meant to work with. So how do you reach more what we call ideal clients, or what I call soul clients, which is there's a bit of a different up level in there. How do you reach more soul clients in 2021? Okay, well, I have several courses that can really help you dig deep to do that, because one of the things that I know when you're a spiritual entrepreneur and you are a service related business, as in you are providing the services, sessions, either training, programs, even if it's self-study, but you have created the content, which is very much you, okay? You have to know, first of all, your gifts, your skills, and even you have to be aware and understand the level of expertise that you have, okay? These are really, really important factors. You need to know that and understand that before you understand the clients, your ideal clients, and even soul clients, and understand and recognize the niche or the niches you are most suited to serve. So my advice is for 2021, okay, is no matter what challenges that you have, no matter how big you want to grow in 2021, no matter how many clients you want to attract in 2021, the quicker you can, and in many ways, know yourself, okay, the more deeply that you understand your set of skills. And what I mean is your natural gifts, your natural skills, and the level of gifts or skills and training that you actually have. You understand what type of clients you are most suited and more aligned to serve. If you do not understand yourself, okay, if it's not something you've done a lot of work on, and it's not something, I mean, I've been doing inner work on myself for 30 years because I started exploring down this avenue over 30 years ago. And I've done a lot of training, and there is still new things that I am learning about myself, okay? But the more that you can dig deep and understand yourself, understand your gifts, your natural gifts, and a lot of the gifts that you've developed or nurtured, and also recognize the training or experience that you have that may be a wee bit more exclusive than other people, okay? And that requires a bit of, how could you say, a bit of letting go of any naivety around, you know, what you can do and what you can't do. And it's a bit having been aware, even the current market, And what I mean by that is, if you can see where there is a saturation in the market, and you can recognize where you fit outside of that saturation, you have a huge advantage, right? Because one of the challenges that many holistic and spiritual businesses have is there is some areas that are very saturated, okay? If we look at how many people train in certain disciplines, for example, life coaching and business coaching was something years ago, many years ago, people tended not to go into unless they had a lot of training, for example, in personal development, holistic well-being. It was something, once they'd reached a certain level, then they would go into coaching, okay? So they were up-leveling their skills, right? And it was tended to be longer courses. Now we're seeing a lot more fast track, very, in a way, very loose training, even very poor training, a lot of very poor training. But we're also seeing a lot of people who are dipping their toe rather than getting a lot of solid skills, and a lot of training skills also giving people the impression that you just need to do this training, you just need to get this certificate, and that's you. You're going to, all these clients are going to rush in. And that is why over 99% of coaches and some types of therapies actually never survive or never succeed past, so many years. I think, I can't remember the exact statistics. I think it's at least 80% do not survive, and that was statistics quite a few years ago. They don't survive their first year. If we probably look at what happens now, a lot of people don't even go off the ground, right? And there's quite a few reasons why, okay? But the first one I would say is that if you're very naive about your level of skills and experience, and you're very naive about where there is a saturation, where they're not, it's going to be much harder for you, right? It's going to be much harder for you to attract the clients, get in front of those clients. So you have to know yourself. And once you know yourself, you can start to identify more of who is your typical ideal client. So one of the things that I've saw over many years, and I actually was really reminded about this year for many reasons. When I started really going back and making, how can you say, that helping people with their business and their marketing this year, when I really started to take it on to a certain level, what I realized was the problem was, even in marketing, I work with spiritual and archetypal marketing, branding, and what I was seeing, that there was quite a few clients who couldn't step forward because they actually hadn't done a lot of inner work, right? So they didn't understand themselves. They couldn't see their blind spots. So often when you cannot see your blind spots and you don't see yourself, you're trying to, for example, be someone that you think you need to be, and you're so how could you say, entangled. And even in a way, the easiest way I can say is that some people have lived their life in a way, and they've took, for example, job positions that required them to be somebody else, that they actually have built up this shell, a persona that is actually nothing like the real them underneath. So what happens is, when they market themselves, or they're trying to brand themselves, they're still trying to brand and market themselves who they had to be for certain situations or for certain roles in life. And the reality is that's not really them. So what happens then, there's a whole problem with alignment. People then, there's mixed messages because there's discord. They're sending discord out in their own energy field. They're just sending discord with their message because they're not owning who they really are. Even if they break through and recognize that more of who they are, they're not owning it. Okay, so you have to start to understand yourself and start owning more of you, and then it's easier to align. Another big mistake is many people make is they try to align themselves to a client that is not really, in many ways, I'm not saying ever going to be their ideal client, but what they're trying to do is make themselves fit. And the easiest way that I can explain that is like trying to make yourself fit in a relationship that's never going to work. And again, you can, of course, you can align yourself more to you and more to your potential, as in what is naturally there. But if you're so focused on aligning yourself in a way and how you want to be in a way that's not natural to the greatest gifts and your natural sort of dynamics, you're going to struggle. Now, I'm going to give you an example. Quite a few years ago, I created a group and programs, and it was targeting empaths and sensors, okay? And at the time, I didn't make the realization that I had in my head, in a way, because I understood the concepts of niche and branding and marketing. I said in my head that it was a certain type of empaths and sensor, but I didn't realize the way that I did my marketing, that I was leaving it wide open to anyone and everybody, okay? And that created such mass problems that my message was very watered down. And what happened was I attracted a lot of people who were definitely not my ideal clients and definitely not my soul clients. And it actually became a huge problem. So for any of you who run groups, and if you don't implement certain things and you're not really specific on your ideal client and soul client, when you run, for example, Facebook groups, it can become a huge headache for many reasons. Now, in that group, I attracted, there were some that were ideal clients and soul clients, but there were actually very few. Now, of course, there can be a small percentage of conversion of who will buy and who won't, but it was more than that. And what I had done was, first of all, I hadn't niched it again. Now, at the time, I really should have niched it to only spiritual healers, maybe spiritual teachers and therapists who were similar to me, who, were maybe, down the road a lot earlier than what I was at that point. I had been down my journey at least 25 years. So I should have been maybe going for people that were 10, 15, or even 20 years, right? Or that needed help and more support with some of the things I understood. I also attracted people that, even though I'd done a lot of training and understanding, I also attracted people that I was, how could you say, attracting, that was not aligned because I hadn't actually healed certain aspects within me to deal with that type of client. And what I mean was, I actually attracted quite a few in the group who had narcissistic traits, right? So technically, a lot of people I know use a lot of things, right, well, they're either an empath or a narcissist. But actually, if someone has narcissistic parents, there can be a lot of, we all have, the reality is we all have the capability to have every sort of trait within us. And there was certain members in that group that had certain narcissistic traits, and also a lot of in the members who the wounding and the victimhood was so solid that the poor me was triggering, or it was more my rescuer was being triggered constantly with their poor me, the victimhood, and I didn't deal with it the best way. So often I was attracting people who just wanted the freebies, who had no value, respect, and a way for themselves. So they were not valuing and respecting me, and they wanted constantly freebies. And I created situations where I was constantly getting people email me big long emails message me about particularly their specific problem, not wanting to book a session, wanting me to give free advice, and it was exhausting. And, you know, it was really, how could you say, a big lesson on boundaries, because no matter what boundaries I seemed to try and set up, I was creating problems. Okay, now that was one example where I knew things about myself, but I didn't recognize, I hadn't made the connection that, or the realization that I would also attract other people with certain types of wounding that would trigger mostly the rescuer in me, for example, which was a big lesson. It was a huge lesson for me. But also, once you create something, it's very hard to go back the way in a business. If you open the floodgates and you, other than opening the floodgates, I was often considering my level of experience and the level of training they were getting from me and what they were learning, I was too cheap. And then what happened was people expected that to continue, just to get almost anything free or cheap. And what I did then was step back and only work with really certain types of clients, okay? And I recognized that in all of my business was empaths, particularly, obviously a lot more sensitive as well, but empaths is first for me because my empathic traits are really strong. And also that's where I've had the hugest challenges. And I realized that even in every area of work that I do, that would be who my clients were, right? And a certain type of empath, right? Also, even as it can be a specific age, but also with a certain problem. And I realized that there was a square, and there was, if you think about it, a square or a circle, whatever you want to do it as, in there was a certain empath that I wanted to work with, that my skill set, my strengths, and my vulnerabilities were most suited to. And there was other maybe that I didn't want to attract, that I don't want to focus on, right? So that's why I talk about it's just as important to know who's not your client. Now, if you want to dig more deeply into this, I have 2 courses that are very, very helpful in this area. And one of those I have is Identify Your Soul Gifts course, which has a meditation and a workbook that really helps you dig deep and really start to unravel quite a few things about yourself, and things that are actually going to be the things that your clients are attracted to that you don't realize, okay? And I also have a course, Identify and Attract Soul Clients. Now, we're in January 2021, and for this time, I'm going to give you access to, if you buy that Identify and Attract Your Souls, Identify and Attract Your Soul Clients course, I'm going to give you the Identify Your Soul Gifts free, okay? And what I would recommend is that you actually try and start with the Soul Gifts course first, or as much of that. You can start at the beginning of the Identify, Attract your soul client if you're waiting for me to get back with the link for this, the Soul Gifts course. But the Soul Gifts course will help you start to recognize more aspects of you that are more aligned, and why there is certain types of clients that you shouldn't work with. Believe me, it's really important that you don't. Now, even if you're struggling to get any clients at the moment, this is still important, because you know why? Because if you're not clear on who exactly, even in your head, that who you're working with, you are actually sending out a very desperate energy, a sort of very, also kind of, these ways, a very scattered energy and focus in your marketing and your business to almost, you're kind of just saying, oh, anyone, right? And that doesn't serve any business, okay? The most successful businesses niche, and they niche in an area that is needed, and they niche in an area that they're fantastic at and they're aligned with, and they can definitely help. And that is why it's so important to know what level you can help someone at. If you're new, if you've only been in the industry about 5 years, there may be a certain type of client, certain type of problem that you're more suited. Obviously, the more experience and more, it might be a different type of client, okay? A different or a more in-depth problem, more complex problem or problems, okay? So wishing you, amazing success, health, and many blessings in 2021. And remember, if you're a service-related business, that you're at the heart of your business and you need to know yourself first. Bye for now.